Hello there, Msoul. Sometimes it's really fun to have someone read to us so that we can keep our hands free and listen for some company. And I came across something from ancient Japanese writing that I wanted to share with you about something we recognize even today: butterflies. Would that I could hope for the luck of that Chinese scholar known to Japanese literature as Rosan. For he was beloved by two spirit maidens, celestial sisters, who every 10 days came to visit him and to tell him stories about butterflies. Now, there are marvelous Chinese stories about butterflies, ghostly stories, and I want to know them, but never shall I be able to read Chinese nor even Japanese, and the little Japanese poetry that I manage with exceeding difficulty to translate contains so many allusions to Chinese stories of butterflies that I am tempted with the torment of Tantalus. And of course, no spirit maidens will ever deign to visit so skeptical a person as myself. I want to know, for example, the whole story of that Chinese maiden whom the butterflies took to be a flower and followed in multitude. So fragrant and so fair was she. Also, I should like to know something more concerning the butterflies of the Emperor Zhensho, or Ming Huang, who made them choose his loves for him. He used to hold wine parties in his amazing garden, and ladies of exceeding beauty were in attendance, and caged butterflies set free among them would fly to the fairest, and then upon that fairest the imperial favor was bestowed. But after Gensho Kutei had seen Yokihi, whom the Chinese call Yang Kuei Fei, he would not suffer the butterflies to choose for him, which was unlucky, as Yokihi got him into serious trouble. Again, I should like to know more about the experience of that Chinese scholar, celebrated in Japan under the name Soshu, who dreamed that he was a butterfly and had all the sensations of a butterfly in that dream, for his spirit had really been wandering about in the shape of a butterfly. And when he awoke, the memories and the feelings of butterfly existence remained so vivid in his mind that he could not act like a human being. Finally, I should likely to know the text of certain Chinese official recognition of sundry butterflies as the spirits of an emperor and his attendants. Who? Most of the Japanese literature about butterflies, excepting some poetry, appears to be of Chinese origin, and even that old national aesthetic feeling on the subject, which found such delightful expression in Japanese art and song and custom, may have been first developed under Chinese teaching. Chinese precedent doubtless explains why Japanese poets and painters chose so often for their geimyo, or professional appellations, such names as chomu, the butterfly dream, icho, solitary butterfly, etc. And even to this day, geimyo, or chohana, butterfly blossom, chokichi, butterfly luck, or chonosuke, butterfly help, are affected by dancing girls. Besides artistic names having reference to butterflies, there are still in use real personal names, yobina, of this kind, such as kocho or cho, meaning butterfly. They are borne by women only, as a rule, though there are some strange exceptions. And here I may mention that in the province of Mutsu, where still exists some curious old customs of calling the youngest daughter in a family Chekona, which quaint word, obsolete elsewhere, signifies in Mutsu dialect a butterfly. In classic time, this word signified also a beautiful woman. I know I grew up with one of my best friends from southern Korea, and her name ended with a ya, and they said that her nickname meant butterfly. She was also the only and youngest girl in her family. It is possible also that some weird Japanese beliefs about butterflies are of Chinese derivation, but these beliefs might be older than China herself. The most interesting one, I think, is that of the soul of a living person may wander about in the form of a butterfly. Some pretty fancies have been evolved out of this belief, such as the notion that if a butterfly enters your guest room and perches behind the bamboo screen, the person whom you most love is coming to see you. I really like that idea. That a butterfly may be the spirit of somebody is not a reason for being afraid of it. I know a lot of people in my family, whenever we see a white moth, think of our grandmother coming to visit. She was very careful and gentle and would never let us try to chase them so that we wouldn't rob them of the few days of life they have, as we have much many more days, and yet not many at all compared to infinity. So I like to think of her visiting us when we see them. Hmm. It's interesting that we're all from different cultures from all around the world, and we have so many very similar ideas about butterflies. Nevertheless, there are times when even butterflies can inspire fear by appearing in prodigious numbers, and Japanese history records such an event when Taira no Masakado was secretly preparing for his famous revolt. There appeared in Kyoto so vast a swarm of butterflies that the people were frightened, thinking the apparition to be a portent of coming evil. Perhaps those butterflies were supposed to be the spirits of the thousands doomed to perish in battle, and agitated on the eve of war by some mysterious premonition of death. However, in Japan belief, a butterfly may be the soul of a dead person as well as of a living person. Indeed, it is a custom of souls to take butterfly shape in order to announce the fact that their final departure from the body, and for this reason any butterfly which enters a house ought to be kindly treated. To this belief, and to queer fancies connected with it, there are many allusions in popular drama. For example, there is a well known play called Tonde Deru Kocho non Kanzanshi, or The Flying Hairpin of Kocho. Kocho is a beautiful person who kills herself because of false accusations and cruel treatment. Her would be avenger long seeks in vain for the author of the wrong. But at last the dead woman's hairpin turns into a butterfly and serves as a guide to vengeance by hovering above the place where the villain is hiding. Now that makes me think of new reasons for our disappearing hairpins. Oh my goodness! And when they reappear? Oh my! Of course, those big paper butterflies, Ocho and Meicho, which figure at weddings, must not be thought of as having any ghostly significance. As emblems, they only express the joy of living union, and the hope that the newly married couple may pass through life together as a pair of butterflies, flit lightly through some pleasant garden, now hovering upward, now downward, but never widely separating. I really love that imagery. I think that's so beautiful. In part two of the writings of the butterflies from ancient Japanese text, it talks about a small selection of hokku on butterflies that will help to illustrate Japanese interest in the aesthetic side of the subject. Some are pictures only, tiny colored sketches made with 17 symbols. Some are nothing more than pretty fancies or graceful suggestions, but the reader will find variety. Probably he will not care much for the verses in themselves. The taste for Japanese poetry of the epigrammatic sort is a taste that must be slowly acquired, and it is only by degrees, after patient study, that the possibility of such compositions can be fairly estimated. Hasty criticism has declared that to put forward any serious claim on behalf of 17 symbol poems would be absurd, quote unquote. But what then of Crashaw's famous line upon the miracle of the marriage feast in Cana? Nympha pudica deum vidit et erubuit. Only 14 symbols and immortality. Now, with 17 Japanese symbols, things quite as wonderful, indeed much more wonderful, have been done. Not once or twice, but probably 1,000 times. However, there's nothing wonderful in the following hokku, which have been selected for more than literary reasons. I'll just read for you the first one, but I think I'll put the rest of them in memes throughout the month of June or July, most likely July, when we see lots of butterflies and moths flitting around in our gardens and public neighborhoods. The first one sounds something like this. Please apologize for my accent. Nuji kakuru, hayori sugata no kocho kana. like a haori being taken off. That is the shape of a butterfly. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to save the rest to surprise you with later. But after they mention the different poetry, they write this. Besides these specimens of poetry about butterflies, I have one queer example to offer of Japanese prose literature on the same topic, the origin of which I have attempted only a free translation, but can be found in the curious old book called Mushi Isame, Insect Admonitions, and it assumes the form of a discourse to a butterfly. But it is really a didactic allegory, suggesting the moral significance of a social rise and fall. Now, under the sun of spring, the winds are gentle, and flowers pinkly bloom, and grasses are soft, and the hearts of the people are glad. Butterflies everywhere flutter joyously. So many persons now compose Chinese verses and Japanese verses about butterflies. And this season, O butterfly, is indeed the season of your bright prosperity. So comely you now are, that in the whole world there is nothing more comely. For that reason, all other insects admire you and envy you. There is not among them even one that does not envy you. Nor do insects alone regard you with envy. Men also both envy and admire you. So Shu of China, in a dream, assumed your shape. Sakoku of Japan, after dying, took your form, and therein made ghostly apparition. Nor is the envy that you inspire shared only by insects and mankind. Even things without soul change their forms into yours. Witness the barley grass, which turns into a butterfly. Isn't that such a lovely imagery? I never thought of it that way, but I can totally see that. And therefore you are lifted up with pride, and think to yourself, in all this world there is nothing superior to me. Ah, I can very well guess what is in your heart. You are too much satisfied with your own person. That is why you let yourself be blown thus lightly about by every wind. That is why you never remain still, always, always thinking. In the whole world there is no one so fortunate as I. But now try to think a little about your own personal history. It is worth recalling, for there is a vulgar side to it. How a vulgar side? Well, for a considerable time after you were born, you had no such reason for rejoicing in your form. You were then a mere cabbage insect, a hairy worm, and you were so poor that you could not afford even one robe to cover your nakedness. And your appearance was altogether disgusting. Oh, poor butterfly babies, the larvae, right? Everybody in those days hated the sight of you. Indeed, you had good reason to be ashamed of yourself. And so ashamed you were that you collected old twigs and rubbish to hide in. And you made a hiding nest and hung it to a branch. Oh, the cocoon. And then everybody cried out to you, Raincoat insect, Mino Mushi. I think I want to call someone that when I'm stuck in traffic. Mino Mushi. And during that period of your life, your sins were grievous. Among the tender green leaves of beautiful cherry trees, you and your fellows assembled, and there made ugliness extraordinary. And the expectant eyes of the people, who came from far away to admire the beauty of those cherry trees, were hurt by the sight of you. And of the things even more hateful than this, you were guilty. You knew that poor men and women, being cultivated daikon and their fields, toiling under the hot sun till their hearts were filled with bitterness by reason of having to care for that daikon, and you persuaded your companions, to go with you to gather upon the leaves of the daikon and on the leaves of other vegetables planted by those poor people. Out of your greediness, you ravaged those leaves and gnawed them into all shapes of ugliness, caring nothing for the trouble of those poor folk. Yes, such a creature you were, and such were your doings. You mean they ate so they could live? Oh my. And now that you have a comely form, you despise your old comrades, the insects, and wherever you happen to meet any of them, you pretend not to know them. Literally, you make an I don't know you face. Now, you want to have none but wealthy and exalted people for friends. Ah, butterfly, you have forgotten the old times, have you? It is true that many people have forgotten your past, and are charmed by the sight of your present graceful shape and white wings, and write Chinese verses and Japanese verses about you. The high-born damsel, who could not bear even to look at you in your former shape, now gazes at you with delight, and wants you to perch upon her hairpin, and holds out her dainty fan in the hope that you will light upon it. But this reminds me that there is an ancient Chinese story about you, which is not pretty, O butterfly. They say, in the time of the Emperor Genso, the imperial palace contained hundreds and thousands of beautiful ladies, so many indeed that it would have been difficult for any man to decide which among them the loveliest. So all of those beautiful persons were assembled together in one place, and you were set free to fly among them, and it was decreed that the damsel upon whose hairpin you perched should be augustly summoned to the imperial chamber. In that time there could be no more than one empress, which was a good law. But because of you, the Emperor Genso did great mischief in the land, for your mind is light and frivolous. And although among so many beautiful women there must have been some persons of pure heart, you would look for nothing but beauty, and so betook yourself to the person most beautiful in outward appearance. Therefore many of the female attendants ceased altogether to think about the right way of woman, and began to study how to make themselves appear splendid in the eyes of men. And the end of it was the Emperor Gensos died a pitiful and painful death, all because of your light and trifling mind. Oh my, is this a lesson that plastic surgery should not be looked upon simply for aesthetic appearances to meet Hollywood standard? Interesting. This is ancient storytelling. And so we continue with this story to the butterfly. Indeed, your real character can easily be seen from your conduct. In trees of solid character. There are trees, for example, such as the evergreen oak and the pine, whose leaves do not fade and fall, but remain always green. These are trees of firm heart, trees of solid character. But you say that they are stiff and formal, and you hate the sight of them, and never pay them a visit. Only to the cherry tree, and the kaido, and the peony, and the yellow rose you go. Those you like because they have showy flowers, and you try only to please them. Such conduct, butterfly, let me assure you, is very unbecoming. Those trees certainly have handsome flowers, but hungry, satisfying fruits they have not, and they are grateful to those only who are fond of luxury and show. And that is just the reason why they are pleased by your fluttering wings and delicate shape. That is why they are kind to you. This also reminds me that coniferous trees tend to be where we get our spices from. How interesting. So many different thoughts and points of view connect actively in my mind as I'm reading through these ancient stories to the butterfly. And their message to the butterfly continued. Now, in this spring season, while you sportively dance through the gardens of the wealthy or hover among the beautiful alleys of cherry trees and blossom, you say to yourself, nobody in the world has such pleasure as I, or such excellent friends. And in spite of all that people may say, I most love the peony, and the golden yellow roses as my own darling, and I will obey her every last behest, for that is my pride and my delight. So you say, butterfly, but the opulent and elegant season of flowers is very short. Soon they will fade and fall. Then, in the time of summer heat, there will be green leaves only, and presently the winds of autumn will blow, when even the leaves themselves will shower down like rain. Parari, parari. And your fate will then be as the fate of unlucky in the proverb, Tano mi ki no shita ni ame furu. Even through the tree upon which I relied for shelter, the rain leaks down. For you will seek out your old friend, the root-cutting insect, the grub, and beg him to let you return into your old-time hole. But now, having wings, you will not be able to enter the hole because of them, and you will not be able to shelter your body anywhere between heaven and earth, and all the moor grass will then have withered, and you will not have even one drop of dew within which to moisten your tongue. There will be nothing left for you, butterfly, to do but to lie down and die, all because of your light and frivolous heart. But how lamentable an end! While this story carries on with an ellipses and disappears into the unknown for me here today in my research, I do keep thinking about the monarch butterfly. And it travels between Canada, Texas, and Mexico, because when Canada reaches winter, it flies, and it takes 3 full years for the monarch butterfly, its whole life, to go from Canada to Mexico and back. Maybe only pit stopping in 4 of the places, so maybe never seeing Canada again. Or maybe never seeing Mexico again. Maybe only seeing Texas once. It's very interesting that they migrate just like the birds to stay alive, because their flowers do disappear for our Canadian winters. And then they come back again when it's too hot down south. Interesting, Texas, you're the spot in between. Huh. Well, Msoul, those are all the musings I have for this morning. I hope you've had a wonderful time listening to something new. I find it's always good to exercise the imaginative muscle. And, well, I've always loved moths and butterflies. I hope this gives you some new thoughts. Please share them with me in the comments. And if you're not a part of my channel already, please join my community. You can follow me on Twitch, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and, of course, my favorite, YouTube and X. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day. I'm Venus Callida.